Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be doing the next installment of Duel Links predictions. Today we're going to talk about the new character who's been confirmed for Duel Links, Dennis Field. Dennis is an interesting person. If you've seen my anime review video where I ranted for 30 minutes about which Yu-Gi-Oh anime was the best, I said that I liked Yuya as my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh protagonist because I'm a streamer, I'm a content creator, and Yuya duels to put on a show, and I relate to that on a personal level. Dennis is very much the same way. He's like a dark version of Yuya. So, for the same reason, Dennis is one of my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh villains. The difference between Dennis and Yuya is that Yuya tends to focus on making sure that his opponent has fun while they're dueling. That's the goal of his entertainment. Dennis is much more about the theatrics, the pizzazz, the typical show idea, which is shown very much in every one of his duels. He constantly does acrobatics. His monsters are doing acrobatics. He, is very campy and flamboyant and just always energetic. It's been pointed out to him by Yusho that he's doing it wrong, that his entertainment is not real, because he doesn't really have the same motivation that a real dual-tainer would have. And that part's interesting to me. It's not covered too much, at least not in the dub, but it seems to me like the main reason that Dennis acts the way he does is not out of a sense of genuinely wanting to make people entertain or smile or happy, but out of a sense of just wanting attention. Regardless, Dennis is a huge threat. He is part of the Lancers, but before that he invaded the Xyz dimension, he located Lulu Obsidian, and he was the one who pointed her out to Yuri so that Yuri could capture her. He also attacked the Xyzians, and when he is finally defeated by Kite, he turns himself into a card, which is effectively suicide. So that's the character. So let's talk about what kind of cards he's going to bring, what kind of deck he's going to have. Dennis plays a Performage deck. Performage is a series of level 4 spellcaster monsters and includes the ability to pendulum summon. His ace monster is Performage Trapeze Magician. It's a rank 4 light spellcaster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 2 level 4 spellcaster monsters to exceed summon. Its effect says, you never take damage if the amount is less than or equal to this card's attack points. That is effect damage or battle damage, and it's constantly changing because it's based on Trapeze Magician's attack points, not its original attack points. So if you raise Trapeze Magician's attack points, you take even less damage. Now, it is not shaving the damage off, it just says that you take no damage at all. So for example, if Trapeze Magician has 5,000 attack points, and you are subjected to an effect that would deal 5,100 points of damage to you, you take 5,100 points of damage. But you would ignore an effect that did 4,900 points of damage to you, because it's less than or equal to the attack points of your monster. This is a really cool effect. I really like this idea. Especially when we have 4,000 life points. The ability to just prevent damage is very, very useful. It also, it will allow you to be creative with 0 attack monsters, for example. Like, you could play Maiden in Love. Maiden in Love, one of the biggest drawbacks of that card is that you have to take damage to actually activate its effect when you attack with it. You would be able to avoid that with Trapeze Magician. But, you already have Holy Guard as a skill if you want to do something like that. This would allow you to play it without using the skill, which is kind of cool. In addition to its other effect, once per turn during either player's main phase 1, you can attach 1 Xyz material from this card, target 1 face-up attack position monster the turn player controls, other than Trapeze Magician. It can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn, also destroy it at the end of the battle phase. If Trapeze Magician is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or if this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon 1 Performage monster from your deck. That is not once per turn. So if you manage to summon 2 Trapeze Magicians and your opponent dark holes you, you get 2 Performage monsters from your deck. That's a pretty good float effect. Going to be useful in Duel Links, so I like it. It does mean that you're probably going to want to run more monsters than a normal deck, but I'm sure that we'll have a skill that will encourage us to run a bunch of monsters anyway. And Pendulums are a deck that tends to be pretty monster heavy as well. So for the main deck monsters, the monsters that you'll use to summon Performage Trapeze Magician, we have Performage Trick Clown, level 4, Light Spellcaster. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a Performage monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but its attack and defense becomes 0. Then you take 1,000 damage. Now recently, self-damaging effects have been halved, so I do imagine this will be halved to 500 damage. You can only use this effect of Performage Trick Clown once per turn. Okay, so you take 500 damage, you get to special summon a monster from your graveyard, and its attack and defense points become 0. That's a pretty decent effect, it's another float. It triggers if the monster is sent to the graveyard, not if it's destroyed, so you can use it if you Link summoned or if you Synchro summoned. So, useful effect. Trapeze Magician allows you to ignore this, and all of the Performage cards have an effect, basically, most of them do, where you take damage, so you are basically able to avoid all of your negative effects by using Trapeze Magician, which is nice. Performage Damage Juggler, level 4 Light Spellcaster monster. When a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to you, as a quick effect you can discard this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So that's pretty cool. Except for the fact that it destroys the card, which means that you can't use it on your own cards, so you don't want to do that, but you can protect yourself from your opponent's card effects. So the one that comes to mind is Duel, the Ultimate Nightmare. That'd be pretty nice. During the battle phase, as a quick effect, you can discard this card, reduce the next battle damage you would take this turn to 0. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add 1 Performage monster from your deck to your hand, except Performage Damage Juggler. You can only use this effect once per turn. Cool. So being able to discard this card to make you not take any battle damage is kind of nice. And then you can banish it next turn to get whichever Performage monster you want. Useful. I imagine that we might have a skill that puts this card in the graveyard. That would be pretty cool. Then we have Performage Hat Tricker, level 4 Earth Spellcaster. If 2 or more monsters are on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. So that's either field. So you could have 2 monsters, your opponent could have 2 monsters, your opponent could have 1 monster, you could have 1 monster. It just needs to have 2 monsters on the field at all. You can special summon this card from your hand. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to you, you can place 1 Performage counter on this card, maximum 3. Then make that effect damage to you 0. Cool, so you can prevent your own damage and get a counter. Nice. When the 3rd Performage counter is placed on this card, its attack and defense become 3,300 permanently. That's really cool. So, if you don't know what this is, in sports, a hat trick is when a player scores 3 points in a game. So, the Hat Tricker has 1,100 attack and 1,100 defense. And when it gets 3 uses of its own effect in the same game, then you get to triple its attack and defense points. That's really funny. It's really clever. And none of these effects are once per turn. You can special summon this to this card if you have 2 monsters on the field. And each time that you take damage, you can negate it, and then you place the Performage counter on it. So you can ramp up 2 Hat Trickers at the same time and then beat your opponent down with them. This is kind of a cute effect. Obviously, this is not a monster that you necessarily want to use as Xyz material, but it's nice to have like another monster that you could target with your Trapeze Magician. So get your Hat Tricker out, then you give your Trapeze Magician's effect to it, and now it can attack twice. Great. Next up we have Performage Stilts Launcher. This is a level 6 monster, so you cannot pendulum summon it with the scales that we have from Performages, and you also cannot use it as Xyz material for Performage Trapeze Magician. If there are no monsters on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand, but you cannot normal summon or set for the rest of the turn. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to your opponent while you have another Performage monster in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. You can only use this effect once per turn. Okay, so you special summon this card from your hand, but you cannot normal summon or set for the rest of the turn, which means that you are locked into pendulum summoning, which is not that big of a deal. And then during either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to your opponents, which you don't have that many effects that do that, but there are some, you can deal an extra 1,000 damage because it's going to be halved. That's pretty useful, and you can just put 3 Stilts launchers in your deck and eventually burn your opponent for 3k, and that's fine. So I like this card. It's pretty useful, and it has got a decent stat boost, so you could definitely use this card in most games. The last non-pendulum monster we have is Performage Flame Eater. During either player's turn, when a card or effect is activated that would inflict damage to you, you can activate this effect. You cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Performage monsters. Also special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, make that effect damage to you 0. If this card is summoned this way, banish it when it leaves the field. Then, as a separate effect, if this card is normal or special summoned for any reason, each player takes 500 damage, which will be halved to 250. That is mandatory, by the way. So Performage Flame Meter basically nullifies some damage to you, but then it deals you 250 damage anyway, and that's pretty rough. But it does let you get basically 2 procs of your Hat Tricker at the same time, so that's a cute little effect. I like this card. It's a fire monster, and you can use this to make your Trapeze Magician, so definitely play this card. I think it'll do very well. Now for the Pendulum Scales. Scale 3, Performage Mirror Conductor. For the Pendulum effect, once per turn, you can target one face-up special summon monster on the field. Its attack and defense become equal to its current attack or current defense, whichever is lower until the end of the turn. So for example, if you target a special summon Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, its attack and defense points become 2,500 because its defense points are the lowest value. That's a useful effect. You can use this on monsters that have 0 defense points and reduce their attack points to 0. Notable examples of that would be this monster that has 0 defense points. Unizombie. Unizombie has 0 defense points. That's an option. Then the monster effect, once per turn during either player's turn, you can target one face-up monster on the field, switch its current attack and defense points, and then take 500 damage. The attack and defense change lasts until the end of the turn. So, more self-damaging effects. Obviously, you will only get Mirror Conductor on the field if you didn't happen to draw your other scale, or you Pendulum summoned a second one, something like that. Card's kind of interesting, but primarily it's just going to be used as a scale 3 so that we can Pendulum summon 4. Then lastly, we have the Scale 5, and the Scale 5 is a card that is banned in Master Duel. It is banned in the TCG, and it is banned in the OCG, and for very good reason. But this is the only other scale that we have, and the Performage cards don't really special summon themselves all that well, so if we can't Pendulum summon, I don't know that this deck is going to function. So I'm really curious about what they're going to do here, because I don't know that they want to give us this card, but they have given us banned cards in the past, like Nightmare Mermaid, so let's see. Performage Plushfire, Scale 5. Its Pendulum effect is, if a Performage monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your Pendulum zone, then take 500 damage. You can only use this effect with Performage Plushfire once per turn. Seems reasonable, so you can Pendulum summon. Then if your monster is destroyed by card effect, then you can special summon this card and you take an extra 500 damage, but you get to Xyz summon or Link summon or do something with it. It's not bad. But it's the monster effect that makes it really, really dangerous. If this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Performage monster from your hand or deck except Performage Plushfire. That is not once per turn. And the problem is, the monster effect triggers if the card is destroyed in the spell and trap zone. So you can destroy your Plushfire from the spell and trap zone, it gets added to the extra deck, then you get to special summon a monster from the deck, and then if you get to recover your Plushfire from the extra deck, you can then activate it again, destroy it again, summon another monster, and as you can see, it's just a continuous loop of how many times can you use Xyz monsters, Link monsters, generic cards to recover your Plushfire from the extra deck in the same turn, and then how many times can you use generic cards to destroy it? And the answer to that is quite a lot. Performage Plushfire is a very dangerous card when you have access to every tool in the game. We don't in Duel Links, but we might be getting some cards later. In particular, we're probably going to get Astrograph Sorcerer because that's Zark's card. So I don't know what they're doing. We'll have to see. If we get this card, I imagine that it's going to be a one-of and that we're going to be able to activate it from the deck with a skill, but then probably like the skill will restrict you from being able to use its effect. Something like that. Like they just probably want to make sure that we can't play the card, other than just a scale. We're probably just only going to get this as a scale and nothing else. This is what I'm guessing. The other two cards that have been printed, we have Trick Box. If a face-up Performage monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the graveyard, target one monster your opponent controls and take control of it until the end phase. Then special summon one Performage monster from your graveyard to your opponent's field. During the end phase of this turn, give control of the monster special summoned by this effect to its owner. That's a cute little effect. So basically, you take one of your opponent's monsters, then you give one of your monsters to your opponent. Then at the end of the turn, they get their monster back, you get your monster back. It's a cute little card. Interesting effect. I like it a lot. I don't think this card is going to come right away. Again, it's important to understand that we have rerun events. This seems like the perfect card to put in a rerun event. So I'm guessing this will be like a UR in the rerun event, and it'll be playable, but not really all that interesting. And then lastly, we have we have a Bubble Barrier. Doesn't technically say Performage in it. This is a continuous spell. Each Performapal and Performage monster you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect once per turn. You take no battle damage from attacks involving your Performapal and Performage monsters. That is dumb. That is a really, really stupid effect. So you can protect every monster you control as long as it's a Performapal or Performage once per turn. And you take no damage. Yeah, that's good. Performage is not that good of an archetype, but Performapal is quite good. There are a lot of Performapal boss monsters, including cards that we haven't gotten yet, and being able to protect all of them would be very, very nice. I don't foresee us getting this card just because they don't want that sort of blanket protection effect in Duel Links. It hasn't gone very well so far. I do think that Dingirsu was kind of a mistake for Duel Links. It's changed the game in ways that we really didn't expect, so I don't think that they'll be too eager to give us another Dingirsu-like protection effect. So this one I'm not foreseeing coming to the game at all. That's all the cards that we've gotten printed for Dennis McField so far. It's possible that they give us some anime-like cards, like, for example, Performage High Trapeze Magician, but I don't think so. The archetype is already fairly complete. It feels pretty normal. So it feels like we'll get, these cards, and maybe they'll all be part of just, like, a little box or something, but the leaks should be coming soon. I'll, of course, review the whole box when it comes out. But regardless, this is the deck. This is the cards that are coming. You can see that there are a bunch of level 4 monsters that go into a rank 4 Xyz monster. The rank 4 Xyz monster is extremely useful. And the other cards self-damage you. That could trigger cards or effects that you might want to use when you have low life points. So keep an eye out for any combos that you can make using this deck and this theme. My name is Sarafi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.